In the bustling world of business, you're either moving forward or falling behind. Welcome to For Action Takers Only, the podcast and Facebook group where dreams become reality. We're here to fuel your ambition, sharpen your skills, and inspire your entrepreneurial spirit. Dive into the sea of opportunities with our insightful discussions, expert advice, and powerful success stories. From investment strategies to business building tips, we've got it all. Are you ready to take your first step towards your dream life? Join us on this exciting journey, unleash your potential, and watch as your dreams transform into your reality. Remember, inaction is the enemy of progress. So get on the action train with For Action Takers Only, because the time to act is now and the place to start is here. For those who dare to dream and have the courage to act, the world is their oyster. For Action Takers Only, where dreams meet action. Tune in, take action, and transform your life. Your future self will thank you.
And welcome to For Action Takers Only. This is a podcast for serial entrepreneurs and real estate investors and anyone taking action, living the life they intend to. My name is Todd Kirchhoff, and I'm your host. I started this podcast as a homework assignment to network with other like-minded individuals. So if you like what you're hearing here and you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe and like and do all that stuff, and we could use the support. Tonight, I got on Dan Grove. He is from Baltimore, Maryland. He is a ICU and lung doctor that has become a real estate investor, and he is a member of the Sub 2 community. Also a father of 5, so I'm intrigued on how he's doing all this. So I'm going to bring him on in and see what he's got to say.
How's it going?
How's it going, Dan?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Wow, you make me sound very busy.
Well, you do sound busy. So ICU and lung doctor. Huh? How long?
Right.
So that's your career, I take it. That's what you've done since probably high school.
Yeah, I guess it depends on when you start counting, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a W-2. I think it's a W-3. I don't know. It's pretty busy.
So you still doing that right now then?
I am. Did it today.
Jeez. So what kind of hours does that entail?
So it depends. Since I do both lung disease and ICU. When I'm in the ICU, it's a 12-hour shift. So I do those. I probably work maybe 50, 60 hours a week on average, maybe.
50, 60 hours a week. That's pretty demanding. So, you're a big time ICU and lung doctor. What, you're already making big money. What drew you to real estate investing?
Yeah. So I was part of a private practice, and our practice, I was coming up the ranks. I was a junior partner, and our practice had a lot of side businesses that I enjoyed being a part of. We had a billing company and a collections company. We had a company that provided sleep apnea equipment, like CPAP machines. And then sort of the height of the pandemic, the hospitals that we had a contract to work for, we had a contract to work in one of the big hospital systems in Baltimore. And they sent us an email saying, you have to join us otherwise and be our employees. Otherwise, you can't be in our hospitals anymore. So I was in a situation where I found a total... my everything kind of changed, and I got like really sort of panicked, like, oh my gosh, now that I'm part of this sort of corporate structure, at any time there could be a new CEO, a new vice president of this or vice president of that. They could decide, the doctors have to see more patients, work more hours, get paid, whatever it is. My whole life all of a sudden was in the hands of a group of people at a corporate office that didn't necessarily, they're not bad people. It's just the structure, is that they're not necessarily focused on my personal well-being. How could they be?
Right.
And I started to think, I said, well, and then I thought about it. I've been saving money. I always live beneath my means. I've never been an extravagant spender. So I was always saving money. And I realized, well, when I give all my money to a mutual fund or an index fund, it's like, well, now I have sort of all these big business corporate structures that are determining kind of what happens with my future. And I'm at the whim of the stock market. I'm at the whim of this corporation or that corporation. I just felt like a total loss of self-direction and a self-determination. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that feeling. So I said, okay, I want to try to take control. And I started learning about real estate investing because it was the sort of investment avenue that I understood. Like I had bought a house for myself before. I liked the idea of having an investment vehicle where there was a tangible asset. Like I didn't like the idea of things like cryptocurrency or even just sort of trading stocks because, every stock is a different research project. If you really want to be a great investor, you
Yeah.
really got to know the business ins and outs. So you have to do a different research project for each stock. And so I didn't have time or I wasn't really interested in that, but I understood a house. Like I understood renting. I'd done that before. I'd rented houses. I'd bought houses for myself. I said, I think I can figure this out. And I started doing a deep dive. I did the kind of the traditional model. I went to Bigger Pockets and
Okay.
I took a home equity loan and I started buying Burr properties. And I saw sort of the limitations of the Burr investing model, which is the time, right? You have to wait a while, 6 to 12 months before you can, get your loan out. And then the interest rates are very high. I didn't choose the best time to get into real estate. It's funny, like anybody who invested in, whatever, between 2015 and 2021 was a genius, right? Like it was hard not to be a genius in real estate. Here's my investment plan. I'm going to pick a time when we have like record low interest rates and record high appreciation, right? And then I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do a podcast about what like a genius I am because I acquired all these properties, right?
Right.
So why don't we see, like, I want to find somebody who pulled this off, in when we had record high interest rates, right? And stuff like that. So, and the houses had already appreciated and were record high housing prices. So I realized that there was going to be a limitation to sort of how I could get to the goal. And my ultimate goal was self-control, which means I wanted to continue working in my job because I love my job, but I wanted to be able to have enough sort of passive income or real estate is not really passive, like semi-passive income. It's I consider like semi-passive, where if I wanted to cut back, spend more time doing what my family, all that stuff, and I wanted to be able to say like F you if they told me I got to do something I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I said if I need to get to that point, I needed to find sort of a new avenue. That's when I heard Pace Morby on a podcast, and I heard him, and it was just like light bulbs were going off. Like, listen, now this is sort of the answer because I was struggling to get into houses because of the cost and the interest rates. I said, well, I need to find a way to get into a house with a lower interest rate, and the only the way to do that was through creative finance. And so
So
I continued to acquire. Go ahead. Sorry.
when did you actually start? When did you actually start acquiring properties? You did it
I
before
think
Sub 2 then.
it was like December, January 2022, 2023. So it's been
Okay.
like almost 2 years will be at the end of a
Right.
year and
But
3/4.
you did it before Sub 2, right? You were
Yeah, I started before Sub 2. I got 2 houses in Detroit where sort of the price rent ratios were sort of amenable to, not having to put all my money into one investment.
Okay.
And so I got to the point where I sort of used up my capital and I got some business coaching and I decided, so that I hired somebody, an operations manager. Now my strategy has been to connect with wholesalers. So wholesalers send me deals and then I'm connecting with private capital because I really like the idea. I really want to help. There's a lot of people that felt like I do. They're in the situation I was 2 years ago, this sort of sense of loss of control, and they want to get into maybe real estate investing, but they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to get going. It's a little overwhelming, or they just want to diversify their income, their investments, right? Like, maybe they have a little money saved for the future in the stock market, but the stock market can go up and down. They want something to kind of diversify and risk mitigate.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm helping those people. So that what they'll do is they'll be a private money lender or a private money partner. I just helped she's a single mom in Denver. She wanted to learn about creative finance, getting houses. So she invested in a house and we're splitting it 50-50. It's a co-living house we closed on a couple of weeks ago. And then I have another doctor friend who's going to be a private money lender. He wanted to diversify his investments and get a return that's higher than he was getting just from sort of a regular mutual fund index fund, that he doesn't need the money now. And so he's getting, diversifying his investments. He's getting a higher return. Everybody wins. And so I'm trying to use these deals as a means to help people sort of get back control over their sort of investments, their future. And then a lot of people, they're going to invest with us, me and the team I'm building, and maybe they don't know anything about it, but they want to learn. So in
Okay.
the process of becoming like an equity partner or a private money lender with us, they're going to see all the steps of the way.
All
Right. So
right.
this woman who's helping in the Denver house, I mean, she's on every email, she's on every text. She's going to see how, all the things that you have to do to get something set up. And a lot of times there's a lot of things where you can understand a concept, right? You understand how things work, but there's this gap, I think, that most people experience between I know it's the right thing to do and actually doing it.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you just partner with somebody, like, partner with me, and then we'll bridge that gap on a deal together, and then you can take it from there on your own.
Well, I might take
You know
you
what I
up
mean?
on that offer. I might have to do that because I'm
Sure.
still.
Yeah.
So when did you actually find sub 2 then?
So that was February. It was like February of 2023.
Okay.
February, like the end of February. Yeah.
So is that when you joined in February 2023? So you've
Yeah.
been in a
Like,
little.
I think it was like the very end of February, the very beginning of March, around then. Yeah.
All right. So how many have you acquired since? How many deals have you done since you've joined?
So so I have now acquired, with the Lord's help, 9 houses in the last year and a half.
Okay.
And so, so that's the blessing we've had, and they're all in various states of array and disarray. The earlier ones, I made all the mistakes on them that I'm learning to fix, which is an important life lesson.
So is that your plan? Is to buy and hold? Are you buying, holding, fixing, and flipping, or?
Yeah,
Like
I'm only
me?
buying and holding.
Okay.
That's my plan. Because, like I said, I'm very lucky that I have my job. It's a good job, and so I don't need the income now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like stressed for the income now, and so I'm able to say, okay, I'm going to hold off on the present cash for the future benefits. Which anybody who really, like, if you really study wealth building in real estate, equity is how you really build real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wealth in real estate, like, it's amazing, So the return on a house, so you're studying in business, right? Like in school, like, so the most important thing that you can understand, there's one, I think, equation that you have to understand, one math equation, which you don't even have to know, you just have to know how to look it up, right? Is the future value equation. So the future value equation is the math equation for compound interest. It tells you how much money you'll make at a certain interest rate in a certain period of time. So, if you invest $100 and you make 10%, at the end of the year you have $110. But at the end of next year you have 10%, but it's 10% of not $100, it's 10% of $110. So now you made $11. And the next year so now you have $121, and it keeps compounding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can apply the same principle to a house, and you can estimate the value of the house in the future.
Right.
If you can say, okay, well, if the house, I always use, for the most part, an appreciation rate of 4% annually, and 4% is like the national average.
Okay.
Ever since they've been collecting data. So it's a very conservative number. I think in the house, house in Denver I did 6%, just because it's in a really, really good city in a really good part of town. But for the most part, you can say, okay, you plug in the numbers, you say compounding annually 4% in 1 year, the house is starting value now, it should be worth X in 10 years. That's what I would get at sale. And then you can go to an amortization table, which tells you what the loan balance will be in 10 years.
Okay.
And then the difference between those two is your equity. And you can estimate your return, and it's usually 2 to 3 times what you would get from an index fund at 8 to 10%. So you actually, returns are much better. And even if you do as an equity partner, where you split the equity 50-50, the return is still 1.5 to 2 times what you would get with that same. Because I use they call it the cost of capital, which is essentially the opportunity cost, which means that, well, you can invest your money with me, but by investing with me, you're not investing it in the stock market. So you're risking, that's your loss. So, if you look at, most people make about 8 to 10% in index funds and mutual funds. So you say, okay, that's the benchmark. I need to beat that for you. That's my goal. Right. And if I can beat that for you, then it's a good investment,
Right. All right. So I got to ask you, but all right. I see, again, we're going to go back.
Yeah.
I see you, long doctor. You're busy as shit all week long. How are you? And then you decide to start real estate investing. How are you juggling
Right.
all this? How are you juggling this with your family?
So I think that people don't realize how much they can accomplish in a day. So I gave up, so I have some advantages. One is I don't have a television and I don't scroll on social media. So my goal with social media is to be is to be a producer, not a consumer. Because all the coaching I've had is that social media is important to get people to know what I'm up to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not scrolling on social media. For me, it's not just a time suck. It's like a motivation, energy kind of suck.
It
And it
sucks
just
every
sucks,
day.
right? Right. And so I can, so then I take that. And the second thing is that I find times during the day, there's times. So my job, if I'm working in the ICU, it's usually not, sometimes it is, it's not like 12 straight hours of nonstop. There's usually downtime here, downtime there. So I have my to-do list that I can get done. And so if I have a downtime and I'm like, what should I do? I don't have that experience because I made my to-do list and it's like, okay, I got 30 minutes. Now I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then I'll just fill in between the day, and you can do, if you really kind of focus 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and you're sort of intentional and focused on the actions that you take, I think it doesn't matter what you're talking about, right? You can learn a lot of things. You can learn a lot of things. You can do a lot of things, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't have to do with business. Like you want to learn a language, you want to, get a degree on the side. Like there's a lot of things that you can accomplish if you make those steps. The problem I think people have is we live in a society which brainwashes us that things come easy and naturally, right? So like the people that are on the TVs or the social media, they make it look very easy, but you don't see that for 10 years they were, right? So I think that success comes from consistency with a long time horizon.
Right. Now, social media is, I think, shortened that because people will see that and then they see he's already successful. They'll start following you,
Right.
and then they'll start, I gotta, this guy's successful, so I gotta follow him and
Right.
builds. Because I was talking when I interviewed Pace, he was telling me I thought sub 2 in the community and his Facebook group were a lot older than they were, and they're only like 4 years old.
Right.
And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "No, it's only 4 years old." He's been in real estate investing for 10 or
Right.
just
So he didn't just start with he did, like, he was a contractor for a long time, and then
right.
he was doing things that nobody was doing. Like he was like posting his life on Instagram like every day. Plus the
Mhm.
fact that the dude is like, he's a machine and he's a genius with his ability to make these kind of things happen. Like he sees, he's like a genius visionary in his ability to
Yeah,
see where things are going, right?
yeah, he has an amazing insight on
But
people.
I guarantee you that you look at Pace Morby on a YouTube and he would tell you the same thing, is that you're not seeing that for 10 years he was building to that point. He didn't start out, right, and like start his YouTube channel and start posting videos like on day one. He was building up to that, and I think you'll probably find that with most people, right? I mean, that are successful.
Right.
But because the society only sort of like forces down your throat the end product, it makes it look like it was something that happened magically and easily.
Right. No, but he did blow up pretty quick. It did happen. Like if you were back in the 80s or trying to do this,
Sure. No, right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Social media does accelerate a lot. The internet accelerates a lot of these things. I mean, just like this interaction right now, like this is not something that would have been possible, right?
No, maybe we could have done an AM radio broadcast.
I don't even remember. I don't even know what we were doing. It wasn't even something you would think about.
No,
The nice thing about being my age is that I did all my embarrassing things before the internet.
Right.
So
I got to ask, how old are you?
I'm 47.
47. All right. So you're up there close to us or close to me. I'm 53. So
yeah. So I get it. Like I understand. I said I did my embarrassing things before the internet. There are embarrassing pictures of me in the fraternity house, but they're probably moldy or they've like decayed. They're not on a Chinese server farm waiting for somebody to blackmail me in the future, right?
Right. All right. So now I got to get back. You had mentioned one thing. You did hire a business coach. Who was the business
Jesse
coach?
Stanton. Everybody should look up Jesse
I
Stanton, the growth coach.
okay.
Yeah, he was very, yeah, he completely changed sort of my vision and how things should go, from because I got to the point where I didn't know sort of where to go next. Like I'd done it on my own. Like I had this like I'm going to take care of everything myself mentality,
Right.
because I was able to make things happen on my own. I've always been an action taker. But it kind of sort of redirected my focus on having bigger goals, and then how to sort of build a team more than just try to do it on my own.
Okay. So are you still with him?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still part of the community. It was a coaching like program, but yeah, I meet with him regularly for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You should get him on. If you had him on, he's amazing.
All right. I just got a little scared here. I thought, I saw a cable unplugged, and I'm like, are we recording? Are we actually recording sound? But it should be. It's registering on the screen, but that's just the power. And luckily, this thing runs off a battery too. So
Oh, good.
It's the Zoom P4. This little plug for the Zoom. So it scared the crap out of me just now. I was like, oh no, don't tell me we're
Take two. Right? Take
I
two.
was like, oh, we're gonna have to start all over again. So Jesse Stanton, you're still with him?
Yes.
Yes, I see his podcast. I see his posts and stuff like that. He's been very active. How long has he been in Sub 2? He's been around
Like
for
4 years. Like he was like, in the very beginning.
All right, and he's up out of Anchorage. I have another buddy that really talks to him a lot.
Yeah, now's the time to get him, because he's going into 6 months of like abject darkness and frigidness.
Right.
He's got nothing to do but get on Zoom calls with people, probably.
All right. So when you got in and you got started, how did you start finding your deals?
Initially,
Yes.
was through. So I took the tract of using the community and just connecting with as many people as possible, and let sort of the deals kind of come through that experience, meeting people, right, and looking through. We used to have a Discord group before it was changed to something else, and then finding the deals that way, and then making connections through that. And that's how I found the initial deals. And now I'm building relationships entirely with wholesalers. So we're getting as many wholesalers to send us as many deals as possible. And that's what we're sort of looking through. That's how we're finding our deals now.
Okay. And what's your buy box?
So we're looking for anything that, I mean, ideally we like it to at least break even or cash flow as a long-term rental. But we're
difficult in these days, though.
Yeah, so we're doing mostly, we like to have two exit strategies. We're doing a lot of, like, our last 3 were co-living, passively co-living. And so the long-term rental cash flow issue is the backup in case something goes wrong, that you at least can break even for a while until, you can figure out what to do next. I'm trying to learn now and get connected with operators of residential assisted livings, since I have the medical background. So I'm trying to reach out to various operators, because I don't want to operate those, but I would definitely want to partner and lease a place to somebody who would do the operations. It's kind of like Airbnb arbitrage in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I could I think I could provide a little bit more than just the house and the lease. I think my medical background, I could help an operator with the with certain aspects of it, because I know a lot about that sort of thing.
Okay.
But I'll do midterm rental, short-term rental. My goal is my philosophy is as many options as possible. I don't, my exit strategy, and so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to specialize and have my focus, my sort of avatar focus, be finding people that are good at what they do.
Okay.
And helping them, partnering with them, finding great property managers, finding great operators, finding great, people that you can work with, and that they can do the work, and you can provide them an opportunity to do what they do best.
All right. So you brought up a key word in Sub 2, avatar. What's your avatar? What do you consider your avatar?
So I'm like a visionary buyer. That's my idea.
Okay.
Is they don't have they list cash buyer as the only buyer option, but I'm a creative buyer, but yeah, and like a visionary trying to put together this sort of vision of building this portfolio through these techniques, seeing how it's going to work.
Okay. And what market? You're pretty much, it sounds like you're all over the country. You're just where
Yeah.
you find a deal is cool.
Yeah. So what happened is like when I first started, I think I was like most people, like I got to be close to the house because I need to know what's going on. So at the time, I didn't like the houses in Baltimore were too expensive for the Burr investment strategy, the way I wanted to do it before I got into sub 2. So I started looking at houses in York, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And that's about 45 minutes away from where I live, or maybe an hour. It's not so far. It's like close enough. And so what I did was I said, okay, so I'm going to go. I would meet with the agent who'd show the house, classic sort of the typical pattern. And she would show me around the house and I'd look at the HVAC and I'd be like, oh, that looks like an HVAC. Is that a good one? I don't know. Like, it seems okay, right? I look at the water heater. I'm like, oh, it's heating the water, I guess. And I realized I have no clue what I'm looking at, right? And then I was like, I don't like this house. And the agent's like, but then I realized like, it doesn't matter if I like the house. The question is, does somebody want to rent the house?
Right.
Right. Because I'm not living in it. And I realized that like I just don't like for me to rely on my own sort of knowledge was going to be a mistake because it was just going to slow me down. And then I also had deals where I missed out on the deal because I couldn't get out there to meet and look at the place. So I was like, forget it. I was like, it's the 21st century. We have Zoom, we have FaceTime, we have all these things. So that's why I started looking in Detroit. And what happened with Detroit is as I said, okay, first I found an agent and an investor-friendly agent who connected me with a property manager. And the agent showed me the house and took videos and gave his opinion. And the property manager told me what it would rent for. And she helped me get a contractor. And I was like, wait a second. It's like, these are experts and this is what they do all day. And it's in Detroit. I've never even been to Detroit. Right. And so I was like, I don't need to be I can go anywhere. Like this is the key. This is like the secret. If you can find the person in the city, right, then that's all you need. Like, I'm pretty much not in rural areas only because there's less options for things like property management. But I start with the property management. And if there's a house that comes to me, I'll use the house to get into the market. So the house comes and this is a decent house. And I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to try to find property managers in the area, either through networking or stuff like that. And then I'll have the property manager tell me what they think of the house. What will it rent for? Right.
Okay.
Because they know better than Zillow Rents and Rentometer. Right. And I'll get 2 or 3 and I'll see like, do they agree? And if they agree, that's what it's going to rent for. Right. Because I don't really know. And like Rentometer could be wrong. I had a situation, and this is going to be relevant again, where I was looking at a house in Central Florida, and Rentometer and Zillow Rent said it would rent for $2,900 a month, which was a great cash flow for me. But I said, I'm calling the property manager, right? So I called the property manager, and he said it would rent for $2,400 a month. And that was the cash flow. And I said, wait, well, so what happened? He said, well, there had been a hurricane, and all these people moved out of their houses while they were getting repaired into rentals. So that drove up demand for rentals, which drove up rent rates. Then all those people moved back after their houses were repaired, and the market went back to normal. Now, I would not have known that, right, if I hadn't spoken to someone who was expert on the market. And so then I said, okay, now so that if I find a property manager, and it's even better, the property manager will confirm my rental rates. The property manager will tell me about the street, right? Like even in the city I live in, like a property manager is going to know about the intricacies of a city and where people rent and what it'll rent for more than I will. And I live here, right? And then the property manager has a connection with contractors, right? So I closed on a house in Baltimore, right? And I found the property manager. Now, the property manager gave me a list of 3 contractors who got us bids. Now, a contractor, if I find on my own, right, is more likely to ghost me as a single investor than they are to ghost the property manager who they have a long relationship with and has sent them a lot of business. Right?
Yeah.
You understand? So now what I can do is, because if I can develop that skill, then I can do any market. It's just a matter. The other thing is like, you don't know, right? Like everybody likes to pick which market is best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like that's a lot of work, right? I mean, you have to guess with the like job movements, and people spend a lot of time, and they'll spend 6 to 12 months looking for a market, and they just lost 12 months of profit potential, right? And then they pick that market, and now the number of houses that are available are less because it's just one market.
Right.
Whereas if there's a house in every market, I don't care where it is, right? The houses I have in Detroit, in a place where, you would think this is not one of the hot cities in the Sun Belt or whatever, but they're doing great. Thank God. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a house in every market. So if I can increase the volume, if I can maximize the size of the net and the systems to filter through that, then that increases the likelihood that I'm going to find a house in a difficult market.
Right. Wow. I mean, you really reverse engineering the process.
Right. Eventually, like you find a market, you like it, and then you already have this all built up. So now you're already set up when another deal comes in the same market. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it'll probably organically, you'll be drawn to markets eventually because you've seen how they work. Right. Like the house in Denver, I would have never gotten this house as a co-living. I didn't want to get this house at first. I was not into it, but it kind of worked on. It penciled out, so I spoke with the property manager who he only does co-living. He has 54 houses of co-living, and he looked at the house. He said, "Yeah, if you do this, this, and this, I can get you 7 people in that house. You'll make $5,200 a month gross revenue." Right. And I was like, "Well, okay, right? Like that's what I need, right?" Like, and he has a track record, so that's the strategy. So now hopefully I can look more aggressively for houses in Denver. Right.
So where do you have the most at?
In Baltimore. I have 3 in Baltimore.
Okay.
And then 2 in Detroit. Yeah. But yeah. So.
Awesome. So, I just had a question and it went. I'm having brain farts left and right today. So you're a doctor. Tell me what's going on here. No. So tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced coming into sub 2 and learning about sub 2? Have you done any sub 2 deals yet?
Yeah. So I've done one of the things when I got into sub 2 I wanted to do was I wanted to like do one of everything.
Okay.
I want to do a sub 2, a seller finance, a long-term rental, a short-term rental, and I did everything but a midterm rental. Because a lot of these things are not so complicated in theory, but I think there's something so valuable about just doing one that is not it's just everything is just easier once you've done one.
Right.
And you see, okay, that wasn't so terrible, right? Like I remember like panicking about setting up insurance on a sub 2 because you have to make sure you got the additional insured. It's a little complicated. And I was like, I watched all the videos. I'm just going to do it. So I called the guy. He's like, yep, done. Like 20 minutes on the phone with the guy. He's like, yeah, we do it. We're going to do this additional insured. We do this all the time.
So who'd you get the insurance through?
Steadily Insurance.
Okay. I know there's a guy here with Goosehead that they do sub 2 deals.
Goosehead
Insurance. Yeah.
Goosehead Insurance.
Yeah. There's a guy here. He's working with Andrew Arriaga and Jeff Smith.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he's with Goosehead. So and those guys are doing a lot of deals. So
yeah, for sure. So a lot of these things were just you do it, and so yeah, it wasn't as hard as I thought. But the big challenges are, listen, it's scary, right? Like you're taking this is risks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had to deal with an eviction, which is expensive. That was a very expensive mentorship, learning about the eviction process. And then I had a septic system mentorship. I like to call these mentorships. Right. I learned all about septic systems, and I have an Airbnb in North Georgia. And so I learned about what makes septic systems expensive, which I had all the things that make a septic system expensive. Right. So I learned about having money aside. I learned having equity available that you can borrow against in an emergency. I learned how to when you underwrite, make sure you have a few months of the PITI that you can cover. So you're not include that as your entry fee. A lot of people don't do that. You say people just say, oh, this is my entry fee. And don't realize that, you have to pay that mortgage before your renters get there. You have to count that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff that's really, I think that have been that have been struggles, but have been educational struggles.
Okay. So with all this stuff going on, you're doing single families. You
Right.
got all these things that could be problems. You got to have enough money for the PITI, like you said. Did you ever start wondering, well, maybe I should do multifamily? Have you ever considered multifamily?
Well, I have the personality where if somebody says you should do something, I'm like, let's do it. So I had to like, so I kind of like was like, like, let's go. Right. Like, those guys, you ever hang out with these guys that are up for stuff? You know what I'm talking about? They're up for stuff. He's like, before you finish the sentence, you're like, do you want to? And they're like, let's go.
Yeah.
I didn't finish my sentence. Like, no, let's do it. You up for that? Yeah, let's do it. They didn't even know what it is. Let's go. Right. Those are fun.
Well, how did you manage when you first got into sub 2 then with everything? Because when I first got in sub 2, I thought, man, I have to do everything Pace is telling me to do, and everything he says to do on these Zooms and these, in his podcast.
Right.
Be doing this. I need to be doing this. And I was like, how do you juggle it all? So
yeah. So this is where the ADHD is sometimes helpful, is that I have very little patience for things. So I like tried cold calling maybe for like an hour. If that. And I was like, okay, so wholesaling's off the list, right? And then if you do a sub 2 and you try to read the documents, and my eyes were crossed and I had a headache, so I'm like, TC off the list, right? You just kind of like knock stuff out. You're like, I guess I want to buy houses. That's what I want. I like the figuring out the deals and stuff like that. And so then I was like, it was obvious for me. Now multifamily, maybe someday. But I got into this like groove where multifamily was too intimidating. So I started doing this. And then at one point I was like, you know what? Like, let's just do this. And we'll do this until it's really boring, which it isn't yet. Or until it's like so successful, which it isn't yet. Right. Like, so that I can start buying back time. And then I can maybe do the research necessary. Cause I don't consider, I don't think that I know very little about multifamily, but to me, it seems like it's not the same. It's not just single family, but bigger. It's like a different thing. No, right? I think some people think if you can do single family, you can do multifamily, but it's a different sort of training.
It's more commercial. It's a commercial.
Right. And how do you underwrite an apartment building? Like maybe a small one you can underwrite, but like dealing with all that stuff, which is something I would not want to get into. The other problem with multifamily for me is that with single family, I'm much more diversified. So when I screwed up, it's not like I didn't have all my eggs in that basket, right? Okay. So I want to get to a point before I can even consider multifamily where if it screws up, it doesn't sink the ship, right? Where I either have equity somewhere, or I could sell, or I could do something like that, and then learn the process.
Okay, are you getting into the affordable housing kick? Are you learning about the Section 8?
So I have Section 8. Okay. And what I learned about Section 8 is that you find a property manager that can do Section 8. And so I think co-living is the biggest solution for affordable housing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny. I'm very apolitical. Like, I stopped caring about politics in 2016 when it stopped being about like ideas and it turned into a whole circus. Like I'm like, politically, I'm a radical centrist, which means I think everybody's crazy. Okay. And so like, they're all lunatics. And I know that you hate this one and you hate that one, but you're both right and you're both wrong and you're all crazy. And like, just stop yelling. Okay. Everybody just stop yelling. Right. So but like, it seems that the solution that all the governments or politicians but from both sides to this affordable housing problem is they want to do absolutely everything in their power to fix the problem except for create more housing, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And it's not a socioeconomic, it's like a supply and demand problem, right? There's just not enough housing units. So a co-living, like pad split co-living, is the only way you can increase the available number of units without having to build more units, right? So like if I have like this house in Baltimore I bought, it's a sub 2, the guy was doing okay as a long-term rental and it was one family in there. So now I can make it a 6-bedroom pad split and now 6 people can find housing, right? And so it's same house, a little bit of rehab, and now it's home for 6 people. And now those 6 people are now pulled out of the demand for other apartments. which means that there's more available for them, which means the prices might come down if this takes off more, right? And so I think that co-living, until they build more units or something else happens, co-living is sort of the affordable housing solution. I do like that it's sort of investing with a mission. You're providing home for people that struggle,
Yeah.
And so, or in transition and they need someplace till they get themselves back together. That's why I want to get into assisted living, especially memory care and stuff like that. Because I think that I don't think that you could be happy if you're just doing it to be rich. People who just do things for the money are usually not happy people, because there's always somebody who has more money. Doesn't matter how much you make. There will always be somebody who's richer.
Yeah, that pisses them off. Like,
yeah, I know.
Dang it, I need more money now.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like, you do these. It's funny. I heard a podcast of a guy who was a therapist in Manhattan for like billionaires. And he was like, they're all miserable. Not all of them. Most of them are miserable. And the reason they're miserable is because they don't have any friends anymore, because they can't trust anyone, because they don't know if somebody is really their friend or if just is their friend for their money, right? And so the only people that are happy who are that rich are the ones that are doing great things with their money, giving it away, making a difference and stuff like that, right? Like, I don't think Jeff Bezos was a happy person. Like, he was divorced, right? And you know what I mean?
I don't see him as a happy person either.
So we've all been brainwashed, this idea that, if you just have this, right? If you just buy this thing, then you'll be happy, right? Huh?
This will fix it all. If you have a certain amount, it'll fix it all.
Right. Yeah. Then you get that thing and it doesn't make a difference. So for me, I think the thing that I'm trying to get is not wealth. It's freedom. It's self-direction. And then it's another way of, I just want to be able to do all these crazy ideas that come in my head. Right. And to do that, I think the money is a tool for that sort of freedom to do those crazy ideas,
Yeah, it's not the end game, it's the tool. I need it to do some other things I want to do.
Yeah, because they just won't give it to you for free, right?
Right, it just doesn't grow on trees either. I can't grow it. What the hell?
Right.
So all right, what's your outlook for next year? What are your plans? Still focused?
So my goal is to scale. So right now, I have an operations manager, and what we're doing now in the sort of building the base is setting up systems to allow us to filter through large quantities of wholesale deals and then connect with people who want to invest. And then so that we can build up a system so that we can do that efficiently and automatically, and then acquire that way. That way I can sort of, build it up and then start backing off a little bit on the W-2 and then let the system run the process.
Right. So you have wife and 5 kids. Wife involved in this?
No. Yeah, no.
No, she's out of it. She's like,
the 5 kids.
That's her. That's her.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are older, so it's a little bit easier. This is not. We used to say it's not how many kids you have; it's how many kids you have under 6, right? If you have 2 kids, if anyone has 2 kids under 6, is doing more parenting work than I am.
Okay.
Right? Because my kids can put themselves to bed, right? And my oldest drives, and I don't have to. So
what's the age range you have?
So my oldest is 19. I have 19, 16, 14, 11, and 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a wide range.
3 girls and 2 boys, a full house. It's Queens over Jacks. The poor boys have 4 mothers, and they are frequently bewildered by having 3 teenage girls in the house.
So this is a blessing in disguise, kind of. You could probably use the income from the investing anyway. It sounds like you needed a side hustle.
Yeah. I mean, they don't pay doctors like they used to, and whatever I got, it's going usually to them or to the future. Yeah.
All right. So how long did it take you to get your medical degree?
So including college?
Yeah.
So it was a 14-year process.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 4 years of college, and then it was 4 years of medical school. And then I did 3 years of training in just general medicine, and then 3 years in specialty training.
All right, where did you go to medical school?
I did all my training at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. So I lived in Atlanta for 10 years. That was where I got all my medical training. So I know Atlanta pretty well. I'm trying to get houses in Atlanta because I know that city. Although I went back to visit, and man, like it got fancy. Like I was there, it was a nice city, but now it's like, woo, really fancy with the tall buildings. It like totally exploded in the last 10 years.
Huh. I don't know much about it. I know Alexis Morgan is there. You know Alexis Morgan?
Yeah, I know she is. Yeah.
Okay. And then Abraham Gray.
Yeah, sure. It's a cool city. You should go. It's a great city.
Yeah. I've driven through it, never stopped. There's a lot of places like that.
Yeah.
Like Vegas. I finally went to Vegas 2 years ago, but I drove through Vegas. I don't know how many times, just never stopped. It's just like, I'm not into gambling, you know?
Yeah, me either.
Not into that lifestyle or that kind of stuff. So it's just
Gambling. I don't know. Gambling is, I don't know. I remember that I read a book about Mayor Lansky, the mobster who essentially built Las Vegas.
right.
He said when he was a kid, he watched these dice games on the street, and he noticed that the guy rolling the dice always won. So he's like, he never gambled. He's like, I'm going to be the house. That's who makes the money. So, right.
Exactly. Well, I never saw the point. I mean, it's like I could have just as much fun taking my money and throwing it in the toilet,
Right.
and flushing it. It's like, woo, it's going away.
Right.
What it's all about. It's going
Right.
away.
It's too stressful too. I don't know. I don't know. I think the people who are gambling addicts, they imagine they're going to win, where I always imagine I'm going to lose. Like, it's so fun. I'd rather not.
Right. All right. So you mentioned you were one with ADHD. You always have all these ideas.
Yeah.
How now? Let's get into like the hard times in doing this kind of stuff. And you obviously you've faced the hard times before with medical school and
Right.
going through that challenge. So, but you have 5 kids.
Right.
And how do you deal with the mental stresses that come along with doing business, doing your job, and handling your family?
Yeah. So I think that it's all about balance, mind, body, and soul. So so the body, like I'm into running. I like to run. Soul for me, I'm a religious person, so we do the Sabbath. I'm Orthodox Jew. So every Saturday I don't do anything. It's only family time. So sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, it's just me and the family. We spend all times together. It's all about sort of introspection, unplugging. You know, there's no talk about anything other than, you know, what's going on. You know, it's about disconnecting to connect. So that's important. I think having the mission, the purpose, and all that stuff, I think is what does it. And for me, I think that the thing that people get stuck on when it's the difficult times is just sometimes you just got to keep going is the answer, right? I think, right. You know, I think Mark Twain says like
whatever you do, don't stop.
Right. And I did that a lot of times. Like there's been periods where, like the biggest stress for me is like when I have a deal under contract and I got to find a lender. That like gap, that's stressful for me. But I think I always try to ask myself the question, which is, I like the idea. There's an author named Simon Sinek who wrote a book called The Infinite Game, meaning the goal of the game is not to win or lose or to become make a certain amount of money or not. The goal is to stay in the game. So my mindset was, well, I got this crisis and that crisis, but I'm still in the game. And I'm going to keep going as long as I'm still in the game, right? I still have something to go for. I have to do this and I have to do that. I'm going to keep moving and I'll keep playing until I'm in the game, until I'm out of the game. This is how I do sports betting too, right? I don't gamble up. I like to bet on the sports a little bit, but I have the same amount of money I got like from the very beginning. I put that money in 3 years ago and I just keep playing until it's gone. And as long as I just win enough to keep playing, right? I'm still playing. I'm still right. Because as long as I'm playing, it means there's still a chance, there's still hope, there's still growth. And then things start to build momentum. Now it's like, okay, we're keep playing. And I think also the keeping going gives you the opportunity to show a couple things. One is, okay, I failed at that, but I'm still here. Like I bought that crap deal. I'm still in the game, right? I had this crisis, but I'm still in the game. I'm still going. And so as long as I'm still going and I can keep going, right? I'm not destitute. I still have food on the table. I still have my kids are clothed and happy. I can keep going and I'll just keep going through those periods. I think that's been a helpful thing. It's also good to have like a community, like, accountability groups and other people that you connect with, so that you can talk to other people like, yeah, this is what I did, this is the problem I had. I think we all do a very good job putting forth an image like everything's going great, but there have been a lot of times when I was like, I've had moments where I don't know if this is going to be able to keep going, and I think Mark Twain said something like to the effect of like, I've worried about a lot of things in my life, but fortunately most of them haven't come true. Right. Right. So kind of saying, okay, what's a worry? What's reality? Okay, where am I now? Still in it. Okay, so I'm going to keep going.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a very good way to look at it. So, because there's times there's been plenty of times, and I've only been doing this a year. It's like, well, and I talked to Pace. I asked him, and he's like, yeah, he has the same feelings. Have you ever had the feeling that, man, I'm not going down the right path, I'm doing something wrong here? And he's like, yeah, every day.
Right.
I said, good. That makes me feel better, because then I don't feel, because we tend to feel like, man, nobody else is going through this. We're doing this alone.
Right. My wife always has a phrase which she says, it's not you, it's everyone.
Right.
It's everyone. Like I remember I heard, I think it was like Paul McCartney used to get stage fright like after 40 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I can understand that. I'm a musician, so and I played many years getting out on stage. I played in a cover band here in Houston that traveled around the world.
Imagine, and I'm sure you're amazing, but this is like Paul McCartney after 40 years of playing like Wembley Stadium, right? And like in front of like 50,000 people every time, would still get nervous. It's just because it's your reptile brain, right? It's the part of your brain that's not rational. Mm-hmm. And so it's gonna act up, right? Think of it, it's like your pet dog, right? Like when your dog gets anxious, okay, fine, it's your dog's anxious. Okay, give it a bone and tell it to shut up, right? You got to keep going, right? Every time you feel that feeling, it's not a signal to stop. It's a signal that maybe you got to make an assessment, but don't give it the keys to the car. You got to drive the car.
Right. Yeah, you do. So, what kind of advice you got for somebody starting out?
So I think that, like I said, balance is everything. So I think you learn as much as you can, but you're going to get to a point where you know what you need to know, and you're just going to have to take a leap of some kind, right? You're going to have to do something that you don't think you can do or that you're afraid to do. When I was a kid, I remember, and this is sort of a philosophy that I try to have. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, so I learned everybody had a pool, and so I had to learn how to swim at a very young age. So my neighbor was a swim teacher, like my neighbor's mother or whatever was a swim teacher. So I remember at 5 or 6 years old, I remember I was sitting on the edge of this pool, and every part of my body is like, if you jump, you're going to die. You're definitely going to die. There's no question. Like, you're going to die, right? So why you're not suicidal, right? And then, but the other part of my brain is like, yeah, but like she seems comfortable in the pool. She caught the other kids when they jumped, and that feeling of you're going to die or fear, it didn't go away. But I remember clearly at one point it didn't go away, but I jumped anyways. So I think the motto is don't wait until you're no longer afraid. You should feel the fear and do it anyways. Mm-hmm. The fear doesn't go away.
No,
it gets less though. Like it's not as intense, but I think too many people think that being brave or having courage means they don't feel the fear and they don't have the nerves. It's not that. It's that the people who exhibit courage, if you listen to them interviewed, they felt it, but they pushed through anyways. And so that's the key. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Get your background and knowledge. Don't just jump in and be stupid, right? Get a background, learn what you got to do. But at that point, you'll know it. You'll feel the point where like, I know what I need to know, or I know as much as I can learn from videos and books, right? But I'm afraid to go further. You're going to have to feel the fear and do it anyways.
Right. All right. You mentioned books. What are some of your favorite books? We got to ask that question.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. Atomic Habits is like mandatory.
Okay.
The Gap and the Gain.
Oh,
and Do Not How. Both by the same author, Benjamin Hardy. Start with Why. I love Simon Sinek.
Okay.
So these are like the books that you read again. You know what I mean?
The Gap. You're the second one that's mentioned that one, so that's one now I'm going to have to.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another one called what I have it on my shelf. Unlocking Greatness.
Okay.
By Charlie Harari. That's a really good one too.
Okay. That's yeah, I'm gonna have to check out that book. So now I'm down to well, we went through that. I ran out of questions now.
Good.
Yeah, it is good. I haven't ran out of questions before. So
Oh, I must have answered them before you asked them.
no, yeah, you were pretty much. I don't really get a whole bunch. I just get some to guide the
Sure.
interview to go through, and you pretty much guided it yourself. So,
I can talk for a long time, especially when it's about myself. I
you
love
did
these things.
you did the same thing that Pace does. Is like I went and asked one question. I have a 2-part question. I ask you the first part, and you go ahead and go into the answer to the second part. So you kind of messed up some of my questions. I blame you. But so where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with this?
Okay, so my goal in 5 years is to be working. So my goal is to have to be working half-time in medicine and to be spending the rest of the time doing whatever I want. I hope to have, kids, grandkids, and I want to start other businesses if I want. And then I want to be able to give away $100,000 of charity a year is my goal.
Okay.
Um,
So those are good goals. So let me ask you though, when you were doing, obviously you have a love for medicine to be able to do it like
Right.
you do it. So that drives you in that. Do you think
Right.
you can have the same love with real estate? You think you'll find that there is just a means to an end?
No, I think that's why I think it's important to find
Your why.
exit strategies that are meaningful.
Yeah.
I don't think do I love signing 2,500 documents at closing? Not particularly. I don't love underwriting. I don't love. I do like the excitement of a new deal potential and figuring out. But I do love the idea of providing a home for somebody, right? And or in whatever context, the idea of building something that can provide for the future and helping people who can't afford a full apartment find a place to live, right? Giving them a good, clean, sort of well-maintained place to live. I do like the idea of those things. And so that's, I think, something you could love.
Okay. So how do other wholesalers find you and get a hold of you so they can start throwing their deals at you and swamp you with all their deals and say, hey, this one that's really not a deal should be a deal. How do they find you?
So I have you can send email, like if you're a wholesaler, you can send your deals right to we have an inbox called deals at the number 100gatesproperties.com.
Okay.
All of my socials, we made a website. I made a website called Grove Family Investments, and that has the links to all the social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
and LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok because I'm not a teenage girl, and I don't trust China. I'm sorry.
What? Come on now.
Government, not the people. Very nice people, but the government I don't trust.
Yeah, right. Well, I think TikTok is kind of hilarious because what you said. I started TikTok years ago when it first started because
Right.
of Gary V saying this is going to blow up. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do some stupid videos on here, and then I got political with it, kind of, in 2020.
Yeah.
So and I had, I think, right at 5,000 followers. And then they started talking about the ban. So I'm just like, well, and I felt the same way as you. This is
Right.
Chinese owned. They're just using it to monitor me anyway.
Right. Exactly.
I ditched the whole thing, got rid of it. So
And you live to tell the tale.
no, I started another one. So because with the podcast, this homework, you build your social media presence, and with TikTok, it's just a good way to.
Yeah, I'm not hating on people who do TikTok.
Yeah.
For me, I'd never done social media at all until the real estate thing.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I think I could only handle so much.
So are you doing a podcast now also?
Not yet. No.
You're just on a bunch.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, because I like talking about myself for an hour. Like it's great.
Right. No.
Yeah, maybe one day. Like I think I did. I like the idea. I want to do a podcast with more than one host.
Right.
Just to, I don't know, because I think it'd be fun.
Consider me to be one, actually, if you would. If you ever start one, let me know. I'll do that with you. I would like to do that too. I've always had one because it's like I don't like being a lone ranger, I guess. Right now, I'm still a one-man show. I'm still like what you're talking about, still trying to do some things myself. But
right. Like there's good. I remember just thinking like great, like Howard Stern and stuff like that. Like, in a lot of the great podcasts, it's the interaction that's sometimes interesting.
Yeah, and that's what got me. I mean, when Pace told me to do this, I was like, "Oh man, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that." I was kind of like, "No, this is wrong." I was mad, and so I did my first one, and I was like, "Well, that wasn't too bad." And then I did two more interviews. I was like, I had fun, and then I went and started buying stuff for it, and I was like, and now I got all
I
this.
mean, yeah, and you're a musician, so I'm sure you're like got all excited about like the equipment.
The equipment is fun. It's messing with, yeah, it's kind of fun. I like the tinkering. That's where,
Right.
that's where I'm having a problem with real estate. I don't get to tinker as much as I like to tinker. I'm a
Right. Got it.
hands-on kind of guy. I like to do stuff. I'm not really one that's always been talking. So this is the other reason I do this, is so I can get to talking to more people.
Got
'Cause
it.
me,
Got it.
left in my own defenses or devices, I will become a hermit. I did the last. I'll
You're an
become a
introvert.
hermit and shut everybody. Yeah, I am. I'm very strong, and I'll just shut
Yeah.
everybody out. I'm a strong Taurus too, so I'm bullheaded.
Oh, I'm also a Taurus, but I'm an extrovert.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
like being. I like when I get work done. I go to Starbucks not because I like their coffee, but because I like being in a place where there are people around. I don't. Otherwise,
Okay.
I feel like I feel anxious by myself.
Okay. No, I'm the opposite.
But in my house, I don't ever have to worry because there's usually
five
chaos.
kids.
Yeah, between the kids and their friends, and like there's always something happening.
All right, right. So, man, we can go off a whole another hour on, like, I want to ask you about your getting them in the teenage years and how did that go? And because
You don't ask me. I'm not a good person because my kids are amazing
yeah,
and
you got
they're all awesome. So
I got one that's 11, and he's been great. I'm a little worried about these teenagers coming. What's it going to bring?
well, it's
So
just like it's pretty much the same as when they were toddlers.
yeah,
Only they speak more clearly.
and they speak back. They talk back a lot more.
Healthy kids will do that.
Right? That's
Normal,
good.
healthy kids push boundaries.
Right? That's good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, it's been great. We've gone over an hour now, and I appreciate your time on here.
Pleasure.
So, again, you gave them the intro.
GrowFamilyInvestments.com in case they missed it. That's GrowFamilyInvestments.com. Act now. All social media available. I have a lot of information on there too. Videos, blog posts if you're interested in learning about investing in general.
And it'll all be in the description.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to end it if I can get my mouse to work. Okay, where is it now?
Tinker away, man.
All right, there we go. Let's go.